Hey, this is Armanasul coming from the Black Tower, or my fucking home, whichever way you wish to look at it. I wanted to do a video on face masks on in Magic, and I guess in a sense it could also relate to your day-to-day life, depending on just how an extreme practitioner you are. Uh, I tend to invoke the gods quite often, continue to work with God forms, both in self realization and in viewing threats, both external and internal. Okay, so here we go. We're going to try and give a rundown on this for just a moment. Okay, so the Necronomicon says that the gods are far away and forgetful. I say, well, that just means you got to light candles, you got to do this, you got to do that. Well, let's break this down to easy peasy. Okay, the gods are not far away, nor are they forgetful. They are, in a sense, kind of like your family. And let's think extended family here for a second. Let's think like cousins, aunts, uncles, shit like that. You don't pick up the phone. You don't ever go visit them. Don't be surprised you don't get birthday cards or Christmas cards. Well, in that sense, your kinfolk are far away and forgetful. And to a degree, so are the gods. If you can't make them a part of your personal everyday life, don't surprise they don't show up, or that, they don't take it upon themselves to see something going on in your life that they could do something about. Well, they're like, yeah, they don't really talk to me. They don't really got anything to do with me, So, so the key here is that the more personal the gods are to you, the more personal you are to the gods, and the less far away and forgetful they are. With that having been said, let us proceed to masks. In psychology, they say that, we wear a face to the public. We wear faces that we have with those around us, that we interact with on a day-to-day basis. And then we have what is known as our true mask, our normal mask, the one underlying all the masks, all the different personalities and all this, that, and the other. It's kind of hard to explain this kind of a concept, because if you don't know yourself, these things are going to be so out of your grasp, it's not even funny. You're honestly just not going to understand. You might hear, but you won't in your heart. You won't understand the significance. To better understand this thought, let's go with God forms. God forms are when they say, let's use Anubis for an example, because he's probably one of the easiest ones to actually describe. Okay, so Anubis looks like a dark-skinned man with the head of a dog, a jackal. Well, that's kind of cool. I love some Anubis. But now let's think something though. Okay, let's realize, what is Anubis? Anubis is the guardian of the underworld. Okay. He guards the gates to the Tuat, to the double halls of truth, which lead to the judgment of the heart versus the feather. He also controls the flow of the underworld. What goes in and what is allowed to come out in the cycle of rebirth. This is kind of interesting. But now, let's say that you're somebody that doesn't really understand how to invoke a god, or that doesn't know how to work with the energy. Well, we're going to use Anubis, like I said, for an example here. So let's say that, a beginner, starter, somebody's like, well, what's the safest spirit? Well, personally, they're all safe, but you may have things you haven't worked through, so certain ones can be considered unfriendly towards you. And this means that, they take your summoning of them very seriously. And so they think, oh, they must really want my help helping them to evolve and to work through things. So in a sense, when everything goes to hell around you, you're like, oh, that spirit was evil, it was distracted, it was blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, let's start with the simple one that, isn't really threatening at all, one that won't have those kind of effects. And Anubis is one of those beings. Anubis, unless you just straight up tell Anubis, hey, I need some help with this particular part, Anubis is not going to take it upon himself to just get involved. He just isn't, okay? Because this is a deity, a being, that has its place, okay? And in this instance, the underworld. So, like, dealing with the undead, Anubis would be the shit. Anubis would be like right at home going, oh, I know exactly where this goes. Okay, so therefore it makes him one of the friendlier ones. By friendly, once again, I mean, isn't going to take it upon themselves to try and direct your life unless you ask them to. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with visualizing it. See this gigantic, dark figure, like a man, well-muscled, lean, okay, like a hungry wolf almost, okay, because it's symbolic of the underworld, where things aren't eating anymore, okay, so they're going to be more bony. They're not going to have this well-fed Buddha look, They're, it's going to look like it hasn't eaten in a while, and we're going to use this, okay. Now this dark, lean, bony figure is going to have the head of a jackal, which is kind of like a mix between a fox and a German, no, not a German Shepherd. Wow, drawing a blank here. But, any rate, Doberman Pinscher, okay? So it'll be a mix between a fox and a Doberman Pinscher. Except it'll be black, okay? It'll be dark-skinned, just will. Dark-furred, whatever you want, however you wish to really do it. But the stronger this image that you can create in your mind, okay, the more elements that you can combine in your working, the stronger the effect will be. Like, here in the West, we look at, the West. Oh my goodness, the direction of the West is the gate to the underworld. It's, where the sun goes to die. Well, it was that way in ancient times too, so let's go with that. So we'd be facing west. We would light our candle. We'd just sit there in the silence and the quiet, just let it wash over you. Just the image in your head of this dark figure with the head of a dog. Okay? And call it ever so gently at first. Anubis. Anubis. And let it become stronger. Anubis. Until it radiates through your voice, through your arms, through your hands, through your feet, through your legs, through the core. Okay? And then gently call it. Kindly, friendly, like you would to somebody that you honestly cared about. Come to me, my dear friend. Come to me, guardian, gatekeeper of the West. Keeper of the dead. Walk with me. Keeper of the dead. Talk to me. Keeper of the dead. Show thyself to me. Be friendly unto me. As the same, I am thy brother, or if you're female, I am thy sister. Hear me, O thou Anubis, O thou bright and splendorous Lord of the dead. Hear me. Anything that's poetic, anything that makes you move, anything that resonates with you, anything that makes your emotions turn, this is power. It's power being directed towards the image that you have in your mind, this God form of this being of the dead. Calls it into being. Now, slowly over time, it starts to absorb into your own being. This is what, in certain left-hand path practices, they call ensorceling the spirit or the devourer spirit. This is the, excuse me, this is the form of eating your gods, of devouring, of becoming the things that you desire, of devouring these spirits. You're not really destroying them. You're not really eating them. You're not really doing away with them. What you are doing is you are creating their image and mixing it into your own so that it is one that you can walk with later on. It acts as a few things. First off, acts like a trigger to be able to connect with them automatically later on if you ever need to work with that power again. 2, comes back as a mnemonic trigger so that if you're out and about in your day-to-day life and there's a threat or there's anything that you might need it, you can automatically assume this form that you visualize that you've used before and become that being. In becoming that being, you harness its energies, its strengths. Its strengths then become your strengths. Okay? Now, when you do this, it is called a spirit mask. Okay? For example, I made what I call a demon mask. Demon mask allows me to travel amongst the demons, or, for lack of better words, jinns, the uncontrollable active spirits that just seriously, honestly You have to earn their respect. You have to earn their aid. You know, they're not like one of these spirits that are given a place and a particular thing they do. These are the beings that inhabit movement, growth, activity. You know, they're the destroyers. They are, because they shake up the realm or the foundation so that new things can grow and that new things can be built upon. So, use these masks for this. And I made one, and I call it a demon mask because it allows me to pass amongst them as one of them. It is a physical item that I put on that makes my mind change. It flips a switch in my head that says, I am no longer Waylon. I'm no longer the guy doing the videos. I am this demon. I am this daemon. I am this jinn. I am this thing of my own making. This my monster. I am my shadow. I am that active destructive force, and I am control here. And when you put this mask on, and you become that force, you can then call and work with these other beings. And it's not that they are tricked. It's that they realize that they are dealing with a practitioner, a spirit, an individual who is seriously working to overcome their own obstacles. They recognize the effort that a being is putting into place to actually change. And in this, that gains their respect and their trust. And then they start to work with you. When they start to work with you, then this thing of like, you know, oh, I'm afraid such and such will be took from me. Oh, I'm afraid such and such will happen, you know. Okay, first off, life is life. Shit sucks, you know. A lot of people think that, you know, magicians, mages, sorcerers, all these people, they think, oh, well, you'll get rich and, you know, and you'll be famous and you'll blah, blah, blah. No, man, that's bullshit. Half the time, you're in your own world. Yeah, you may have your circle of friends, you know, whether it's online, whether it's out of state, whether it's surrounding you in this place where you live, whether it's whatever. You know, if you are financially successful, it is because, you know, you're in physical condition to be able to do it. You're intelligent enough to be able to do it, which means, you know, you've gone to colleges, you've gone to this, you've gone to that, you've done this, you've done that. You've put it all together, you know, and in working with these rituals and things, all they allow you to do is to open up doors so that you can further your own studies, your own, you know, your own workings, your own way of making money and doing all these other things. And that's how you actually become famous. Or not famous, but that's how you become successful, is actually applying it into your life. Now, if you're someone like me, where it's, you know, it's just like, it's just you and your body has just told you, fuck you from day one, you know, physically, that you're not going to go out and join the military, you know, let alone think you're going to go do a lot of hard manual labor, and that you're intelligent, but, yeah, you're not intelligent enough to, like, you know, do college and do stuff like this, that, and the other. Well, then you find what you are good at, you know. You find what it is that you love to do, what it is that you're naturally inclined to. It's kind of like your soul's path that guides you and directs you. Work with these beings, with these intelligences, and what happens is that they start to help you. They start to open doors. They start to, you know, allow you to meet people, so forth and so on, where you can present your ideas, others can present their ideas, and you can work together, and you make your own little circle of friends. These only, you know, and when you put this together, that is success. That is success. You know, you haven't been lied to. You haven't been tricked. But to everything, there is a balance. To everything, there is a degree. You know, and realism is where it's played at. And that's how you do that. You have to play it by the rules, and you have to understand the balance of things. And that's how it balances. That's how it's ruled out. You know, as far as, you know, sincere face masks, you know, like, they're like, well, are spirits real or spirits not real? This, that, and the other. It's like, yeah, they're real. Very much real. Have you never had an experience in your life where you couldn't explain for the life of you why something good all of a sudden happened when everything's been shit up to that moment? And you know good and well you didn't light a candle, that you didn't do a spell, that you didn't do something. It just happened. Call this providence. Well, imagine it like this right here. Your higher self, your true self, loves you, adores you, and you love and adore your higher self, or you should, you know. when you realize that the only God that you pray to is yourself, and that all else are masks and beings that have their dominion in their places. You know, it's kind of like the circle of life. It's like the web of life. It's how we're all connected. All things, if they were one thing, would be God, goddess, whatever you want to call it. It would be Kether on the tree of life. Okay, but see, it's not. And it even says so in some of the Hermetic books, you know, divided for love's sake. So Kether was split. Shakma Bina, the masculine and the feminine, you know. And then from there it just cascaded down. Well, that's kind of how life is, and that's kind of how souls are, and that's how spirits are. And that's how the whole of the macrocosm is designed. It is so that a singular piece could experience selfness, and through selflessness realize its true self, its true form, in the image of the whole thing. And, you know, these are the kind of things that go through my head, you know, when on my day-to-day life, I look around and I realize, you know, okay, well, yeah, I got this coming up, that coming up, and I got to do this, and I got to do that, you know. Did I let it overwhelm me? Of course, sometimes, man, you know, everybody does that, you know. But what I do is I remember something. I remember what I tell myself every day. Only good news, blessings, grace, and mercy may come to me. Only those four things may come to me. Okay? Does this stop anything? Not really, but it puts into my mind the design that I want it to have. The elementals, the north, south, east, west, those four things, you know, they are what I allow into my reality. Therefore, I'm not dwelling on the negative. I'm only thoughtful of the positive. And therefore, you know, as much of the positive, all these things that could or would or will or won't happen, they have to follow my design. Because I, and I alone, am responsible for me. You're not responsible for me. The gods aren't responsible for me. The goddesses aren't responsible for me. Elemental spirits, deities, demons, anything. They're not responsible for me. I'm responsible for me. You know, take responsibility for yourself. Be your own savior. You know, be your own devil. You know, you want to explore, you know, so-called kinks or, you know, things that you're into, you know, your shadow self, things like this. Do it, but do it in a constructive, destructive manner. Or is it a destructive, constructive manner? I don't know, something like that, you know. Be both the creator and the destroyer, but make them one. Make your shadow self and your higher self one. Bring the underworld and the overworld together in the middle, right here, right where we dwell, right now. When you make this happen, when you put this all together, it is perfect. And none shall say nay concerning the will, the true will, the will of oneself. You know. All right, well, you know, this is my attempt at, I don't know, educating, reaching out, you know, trying to throw some really cool shit out there, maybe in English if I'm lucky. Peace and blessings to you all. Gods hear me. Spirits conjure it.